Welcome to She Said, the only program of rock and roll comparisons and contrasts. I am Lanea Stagg, the culinary chef and author of the Recipe Records series, a series of 4 groovy rock and roll cookbooks that blend rock history, facts, trivia, and photos with delicious and easy-to-prepare recipes themed for music genres and bands. And Recipe Records has a book for numerous genres, by the way. And if you like the music of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, you can try out the original Recipe Records cookbook, which features facts and stories about the Foo Fighters, Rage Against the Machine, and a very, very famous band that we'll be hearing more about in a few minutes, the Cars.
Well, you know, one of my neighbors is the drummer for the Foo Fighters, Taylor Hawkins.
Awesome.
He lives like 3 blocks away, and we're real good friends. I've played on his solo record, and then he has a studio in his guest house, and they were doing. I went over there and played on a Perry Farrell session with Tony Visconti producing over at Taylor's house. So we're buds.
And that's a hint, listeners.
That is super. So if you're a Motown, British Invasion, or California Jingle Jangle fan, you will enjoy the Recipe Records 60s edition. And if, like my co-host, you're a Beatles babe, then your cookbook is definitely Recipe Records, a culinary tribute to the Beatles, which features unique and special recipes, including a Liverpool dish supplied by British Beatles expert Dave Bedford. And hey, if you're like
how about for the Jewish people, a chopped Liverpool dish?
I love that.
like a mold in the shape of the cavern or something. No, the Liver Building. That would be Liver.
Exactly. That would be a mold.
yeah, that's a chopped liver mold.
That's awesome. Well, all of my books are found at my website, laneastagg.com, and if you order any of the books right now, you'll get a free copy of my latest cookbook, The Rolling Scones. Let's spin the bite together. And you will want to stock up on all of those cookbooks for the holidays because they are quickly approaching. While you're at my website, sign up for my free newsletter and blog because I have a brand new edition coming out soon which will be spotlighting the one and only Bruce Springsteen, so don't miss it.
Amen to that. I sincerely cook with my Recipe Records books at least once a week, my husband's happiest night of the week. And I love playing the songs that Lena's coordinated that go with each recipe. So instead of giving you a wine list, she gives you a music list, and it's really cool to ask your Alexa to play each song that she's coordinated to go with the recipes. I mean, when the books came out, there was no such thing, and you would have to make yourself a mixtape or mixed DVD. But now you just say, ask her to play the song, and she plays it while you're cooking. It makes it into a fun experience instead of a chore. And once you try it, you're going to get really hooked on having fun. You're going to be getting into the kitchen to rattle those pots and pans instead of ordering out. So you're going to love it, trust me.
Well, they might trust you if they know who you were.
Yeah. I might help if I introduce myself. Hey, guys, I am Lena's trusty sidekick, Jude Southerland Kessler, the co-host of She Said, and the author of the John Lennon series, as it were. So if you're asking, what's the John Lennon series? It is a biographical series on the life of John Lennon and, of course, his mates, the Beatles. They're all in there. They're presented to the reader as if you're reading a story. It's a historical narrative, but it is thoroughly researched and documented and factual. In fact, in the last book, Volume 4, there were over 4,400 footnotes. So you're getting exactly what John said, what he ate, what he wore, what he did. And if you're saying, well, I'm not so sure about that, I'd like to see how that works, you can read chapters, sample chapters from each of the 4 volumes in the John Lennon series that are currently available by going to johnlennonseries.com. And while you're there, if you sign up for my newsletter, I'll keep you posted on the new research that I'm uncovering about John and the Lads as I'm working on Volume 5. I'll send you links to my monthly Fest for Beatles fans blog, and from time to time I include some cool coupons and some discounts.
Absolutely. They are not to be missed. So be sure you sign up.
Ooh, I heard an endorsement.
Have you signed up?
I know. I'm trying to keep my mouth shut, but I love your book so much, Jude, and I've read each one at least twice because they're so enjoyable and such a different way of telling the story. I probably have most every Beatle book out. I've got a wall of them. And, you know, I've heard the story so many times, but I just love it so much. I keep reading them. But yours is unique in the canon. It's just a different way of looking at it. It kind of puts you in the room, and it's just really fun.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate all the help you've given me because you know this like the back of your hand, and all of the suggestions and changes and things that you've given me have been extremely helpful, and that gives you another clue to who our guest is today, because if you look on the back cover of Should Have Known Better, you might see his name there. So, Lena, I'll turn it to you.
He is awesome. That was an outstanding testimonial to your books, and I would have to concur with our guest today. So, speaking of pretty cool, we have with us today a very cool and highly respected musician who is absolutely everything Jude and I look for when booking a guest on our famous hashtag #iCandy series. Our iCandy series guests are to be interesting, innovative, iconic, and involved in the music scene today, and our guest certainly fills the bill in all of those categories. First of all, he was lead guitarist for one of the hottest bands in the late 70s and into the 80s, The Cars. And with his mad skills, he definitely earned his place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, The Cars were named Best New Artist in the 1978 Rolling Stone Readers' Poll, and they also won Video of the Year for the song You Might Think at the first MTV Video Awards in 1984. I'm pretty sure I was watching that. But on top of those honors,
it's all lies.
Their debut album, The Cars, sold 6 million copies and appeared on the Billboard 200 album chart for 139 weeks.
Woo!
So
hi-oh.
When you listen to those mega hit songs, our guests can be heard rocking away on chart toppers such as My Best Friend's Girl, which opened our program today, and on songs that we're going to discuss in a few minutes, including You Might Think, You're All I've Got Tonight, and Good Times Roll. His accolades are many and talents are off the charts. So please help us welcome to She Said, Mr. Elliot Easton.
Hi, ladies. Great to talk to you again.
We're so glad to have you here. Thank you for coming back on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're just so delighted that you took away from your really busy schedule to be on the show again.
Oh. Well, thank you for asking me back.
You're always welcome. We might have to make you our additional co-host.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, souffleing with Easton or something.
That's great. So we can't wait to dive in and talk about the Cars and the influence that the Beatles had on your musical career, Elliot. But before we do, tell us a little bit about your current supergroup, the Empty Hearts, and bring us up to date on what you guys are doing right now. You gave us a little hint about it last spring, but inquiring minds are still wanting to know what is definitely with the Empty Hearts.
Well, I'd be happy to tell you. We're in the final mixing stages of finishing our second album, CD, whatever it's called these days, and then mastering, and it's coming out on Valentine's Day 2020.
Oh.
We thought that would be appropriate with the Empty Hearts coming out on Valentine's Day, and the label thought that there was some fun opportunities with that. So that's going on, and then after that, we've already shot a couple of videos and photos and stuff, and we hope to get out on the road and like play a lot. Really, that's the plan. Is like to get out there in the coming year and really get out there and play together. Because if people don't know who the members of the band are, besides myself, we have Clem Burke from Blondie, who's another Hall of Famer. Wally Palmer from The Romantics, which you can't turn on a TV commercial or a movie without hearing. That's what I like about you, right?
Yeah.
And the great bass player Andy Babuke, who played in a great band called the Chesterfield Kings, and Beatle fans will also know, especially gear geeks will know Andy from having written the book Beatles Gear, which is like the Bible of the Beatles equipment. He literally writes about every piece of equipment they used from, I guess, 58, maybe when they met at that fete at the church, up until they broke up. Every microphone, guitar, amp. And so it's a great reference book. And he did the same thing with the Rolling Stones. So anyway, we've got a really fun and interesting band, and we have a lot of lively conversations about all the kind of stuff that we all love to talk about. You and us, and it's all wall-to-wall Beatles and gear, and we have a lot of fun. But what I was going to say about it all is because some of the other guys like Blondie still tour sometimes, and the Romantics still play shows. So the Empty Hearts is kind of like our bowling night in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? It's like what we do for fun when we have a window where everybody's free.
Yeah.
And, it's a little tricky sometimes to get that working where we can all get together, and we're spread out across the country. But the new year, we've all committed to, like, really putting some time into this thing and getting out there and playing, because that's the most fun.
Oh,
wow.
Sure. And that, the fans are just rabid to watch supergroups like yours get back together.
I'm just going to say one more thing about the record, and I'm not going to answer any questions about what I'm going to say. I'm just going to say it. But when you hear who plays drums on one song, you're going to die.
Oh. Yeah, see, you said that last time, and I've been going back and forth because I know that Paul plays drums as well as Ringo. So
well, it's supposed to be a surprise. So I don't want the guys to kill me, but
we can't wait to hear. We cannot wait to hear. You've got to come back on when you can talk about it. You've got to come back on.
Cool. There's all the record is like shows some growth. I mean, kind of like the Beatles. I wanted this record to have more sort of ear candy and sound effects and different vibes and textures. And there's one kind of soul, kind of Stax Volt kind of song that has the Uptown horns on it, and there's a kind of White Album-ish stuff that I was kind of into, this Lennon-y kind of vibe and writing kind of stuff like that. And there's some there's some jangle, there's some Rickenbacker 12-string jangle, and it's a good, it's a fun record, and I think it's a progression from the first one, because we were
so can we reserve a Valentine's third radio show and get you to premiere it when it comes out and play some of the songs?
Oh, absolutely. That would be a blast. I'd love the opportunity.
Okay.
I was just going to recommend that.
We would love it. Well,
maybe we could get some of the other Empty Hearts to call in on it too.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could arrange that. I'm sure they'd be happy to.
That would be fantastic. Just fantastic. Well, we need to jump back in time and look at some
You should get Andy, because he's such a Beatle expert.
Yeah, that would be great. And I have so many questions I could ask him. Oh, my goodness.
And he would, I know he'd love to do it.
Well, that would be phenomenal. Phenomenal. We will put it down, and if you two could do that, that would be fantastic. Just fantastic.
Yeah, Jude referenced
you were
books quite a lot.
Say what? Tell us that again, Lena.
Jude references Andy's book quite often. So I know that she would probably really enjoy chatting a little bit with him too.
Yeah, it would be the whole experience would be wonderful. Elliot, when you were with us last May, we were talking about moving in stereo, My Best Friend's Girl, Just What I Needed, but we had just barely touched the surface of the Cars hit. So we asked you if you'd come back with us to talk about some of the other big hits.
Because we haven't even gotten through side one of first record.
I know, and that's the thing. What a record that was!
The joke in the band was that we should rename it the Cars' Greatest Hits.
Really, no joke. I mean, talk about a blockbuster. And the song I wanted to talk about is the one that is also, I believe, on that same LP. Really edgy, really sexy song. You're All I've Got Tonight. That song still rocks. So, Elliot, give us some insight into this super hot hit.
Okay, I'd be happy to. From my perspective, that song was always one of my favorites live because that was the spot in the show where I got to stretch out a little bit and I could extend that solo at the end. And then, we had a cue set where I would play and we'd come back in with the last chorus. And so it was always kind of fun for me because I could kind of make it a little different every night and stretch out a little, which isn't, it's not really the Cars' oeuvre, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like short, let's say it, Beatle-y kind of, short pop solos and stuff, and that's what a lot of people know me for, and I play a lot of other styles and different things, and so it was always fun playing that song. I always loved that one, because you can kind of jam out on it, too.
Yeah. Well, it is amazing. It's really edgy, especially for the year that it was released. And was there any Beatles impact or Beatles influence on the song? Anything that they inspired when you guys were writing it?
I knew that you might ask that question, and I was thinking about it. And I think it's not so much necessarily that there's any notes in the music of that song that you would necessarily identify as directly, being influenced by the Beatles, but I think there's some Beatles in everything we do, and it's also just more about the spirit of experimentation, just the pop sensibility of of how to put together a great record, and I mean, there's references, of course, but like structure and sonics, just interesting sounds, and all the lessons that we musicians learned growing up with the Beatles, where each new record would introduce a whole nother world, really.
Right.
We've talked about this, I think. Isn't there like sort of 2.5 years between I Want to Hold Your Hand and starting Sgt. Pepper with Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields? And if you think of that, 2.5 years, like groups nowadays take about 10 years between albums, and the Beatles made, 2 major motion pictures, toured the world a bunch of times, television, radio, interviews. It's unbelievable. And that's unbelievable. The level of progression, while all that other insanity was going on, to like have the music develop at that rate, it's just unbelievable. It's just, we're still talking about it, I suppose, because it's unprecedented, and it's just not normal. What can I say? A 22-year-old kid writing Yesterday is not normal.
No.
This is what I'm saying. It's just they're, how I feel. They're like, they're avatars. They're just not. It's just it's not the usual thing, and it really can't be compared to anything else.
No, you're so right, and we forget about it. In 64, 65, George Harrison said we put a week into every day in 1964, and it's true. I mean, they get up, they make a film. At lunchtime, they do radio and TV interviews.
Yeah.
Journalists come over and photograph them. They go back on the set. As soon as it's over with, they go and do Thank Your Lucky Stars or some other television, Ready, Steady, Go.
Yeah.
John gets home at 10 o'clock. They're waiting for him from Jonathan Cape to work on his book. He works on his new...
And sometimes 2 shows in one or in a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then get up at 5 o'clock and start all over again. It's crazy.
And have people, clawing at you, screaming at you, and camping outside your house, and and then to be able to settle down and write the sort of songs that are on Rubber Soul or something while they were still touring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
did the creativity have time to eke out? Where did that? Because there was no time, but it's amazing. Well, speaking of creativity,
it's when you read stories about great songwriters, and it's almost a compulsion. They write on matchbook covers, napkins, hotel stationery, anything that's available, because they have to get it out.
Yep.
So I don't even, and back then we know how the pressure was on for the next single every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So these boys had to write, had to write on the road. And the other thing about them, you were saying how many hours, and they were old before they, older than their age. It's even before anybody had heard of them, they'd been through Hamburg and the Cavern and probably had 10,000 hours of playing. And they were men. They looked like boys, but they were men. Everything that they'd seen and experienced, these were not boys anymore. And they were, savvy way beyond their years, and it almost seemed like it was dog years.
It is a very unusual thing. The only thing that I think equates to it in history is the fact that in a very tiny town, Concord, Massachusetts, within a mile span, you had Alcott, Hawthorne, Emerson, Thoreau, all of Margaret Sidney, all of these great authors.
That's where I lived in Boston. I lived right by Walden Pond in a town called Weston.
Yes, I know right where it is.
Yeah.
I know right where it is. And it's
near Waltham.
It's a very strange phenomenon that happened, and the same thing happening in Liverpool and giving us these geniuses. Very, very unusual in history.
Paris in the 20s.
Yeah.
It's
just amazing.
Yeah, it's just like a Mozart kind of thing. You just can't explain it.
No,
you
cannot.
And that's why we've been trying for 50 years, and it's so much fun to try. But I don't, you can't really explain magic and genius.
No, you can't.
It just is. It's God-given, and it's just, it's from another whole place. It's just...
Right. It's a cosmic appearance.
And that's why the world is still so fascinated by it, because we've never seen anything like it before or since.
Yeah, it was very special. Well, let's go back to 1978 with that debut album of yours, The Cars, because I remember hearing The Cars for the first time, and there was a different sound, a sound I'd never heard before. There's that famous line in A Hard Day's Night where they are talking to George, and George is saying that he doesn't like this girl that's so fashionable and popular. And
turn down the TV and say rude things.
That's it. That is it. And the guy, the fashion designer manager, gets so upset, and he says, "Mark that down. That's a clue to the new direction."
I love the very last shot where he goes, "What?" He just turns to the camera. That guy. He goes, "What?"
I know.
He's so on edge about what's going to be the newest trend and craze.
I know, the clue to the new direction, but that's what the Cars were to me. Because after growing up in the 1950s with the doo-wop sound and then the British invasion, suddenly there is this different sound that you hear in Good Times Roll.
I thought where you were going was in that scene, that metal sculpture where George hits it. And he goes, "You don't see many of these anymore."
I
And
know.
like it's a musical instrument. You know?
I know, exactly. Kind of a precursor to the sitar, you know. You don't see many of these anymore. It is a classic. Well, tell us about Good Times Roll, and if there's any Beatles connection or any, anything like that, we'd love to hear about it.
Well, I think like first we probably talked about it, but that first record was actually made at George Martin's studio in London, Air, and Paul during the time we were there was recording in the next studio, and we're just we were so filled with all of that anyway. In Good Times Roll, in the chorus, there's that huge chorus of Good Times Roll. And, of course, that was a lot of, Roy Thomas Baker, his Queen-style layering of background vocals. But if you listen to the guitar, and I'm just sort of doing a jangling, and it's almost like, it's a little bit like a Please, Please Me kind of lick, or Every Little Thing kind of, just like a little, like, jangly kind of thing. And it definitely comes from there. But, after playing guitar for so long, and I've been playing since I'm a baby, it's almost like you have like this Rolodex in your brain, and this stuff comes out. You know what I mean? And you don't know necessarily, you don't always remember like where you got it from, and then you hear a record and go, "Oh man, that's where I got that from."
Right. Because
when you listen to so much music for so many years, it becomes so integrated you don't even always remember. But again, as far as like being influenced by the Beatles, like an obvious one that we talked about was like Best Friend's Girl, which has a similar look to I Will, but there's nothing like that, especially in Good Times Roll. But again, the structure where, we learn how to put like singles and hit records together by listening to the Beatles, especially those classic singles that, like, say something like Day Tripper, where it would start with like a guitar hook, down, and then go into, it'd be like hook, and by hook I just mean like a musical phrase or a motif that hooks you in, that makes you wait for it to come back around. They call it a hook, and it usually repeats after each chorus. So it took me so long to find out, and I found out. And it comes back in, and it's those little kind of things, those structural things that are so embedded in me that so my best answer, my most honest answer is that there's Beatles in everything I do, honestly, because I learned how to do this stuff from them, how to like how you put together a hit record. Because there's such a big difference between a great song and a great record, So like if you heard John just strumming an acoustic guitar and singing Tomorrow Never Knows and just playing that one chord, you might go, well, that's a cool song, kind of interesting, but without backwards tape loops and tambouras and drones and drums on it.
Right.
So that's the difference between a great song and a great record. You have to make that leap onto tape, and you have to somehow jump that gap between not being actually there with your audience. I kind of liken it to be going to either like a Broadway play or going to see a movie. And so movies have to use special effects and all kinds of things to engage the viewer because they don't have the immediacy of being in front of the actors. And it's kind of the same thing with a record. You kind of do things to enhance it, to make it interesting to listen to, and also capture people's imagination without them actually seeing you playing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, I always make that distinction between a great song and a great record because lots of great songs were lost in the studio.
Well, and you listen to Anthology, and you listen to some of these songs evolve from their very first acoustic performance. The same thing, the reason that Lanea was so addicted to the Escher demos is you're hearing this primitive early version, and you then follow it and watch what it becomes. And I mean, it really is fascinating to watch how what you're saying, the song becomes the record. So
go from the song where like one or two of the guys is just showing it to the band to where everybody's got a part and playing something that really makes it jump off the grooves.
Yeah,
that is a definite process, and you know, it's you know that's the magic part too.
Absolutely, the magic to the song that helped introduce us to the clue to the new direction, to the Cars.
So, Elliot, I know that you are a serious Beatles guru, and you have helped Jude, you know, a lot in her John Lennon series. So,
I don't know about a lot, but I've enjoyed chatting and, you know, pointing some things out.
You have, absolutely, you have.
It's fun.
Yes, and
it was fun that you were receptive. You know, I was like, you know, I don't know if I'm like overstepping here or,
no.
You know how it is.
Listen, I need all the help I can get, and it is especially what an honor to have your assistance. And always, you know so much about it. I mean, you absolutely are a Beatles guru, as Lena just said. So thank you very, very much. And we're going to put you on the spot here.
That's right.
Okay. I just hope I live to see Louis own finish. And I hope he lives to finish.
Yeah, we will.
So, inquiring minds want to know, Elliot, who is your favorite Beatle? I mean, a lot of people, you know, prefer one of the Beatles.
Yeah.
Do you have one that is your preference?
You know, maybe when I was a kid, I thought like that. But these, you know, when I think about it more seriously, I just think that is one, the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
The Beatles is one thing, and that's my favorite thing, because I love them individually, but it's like, you know, I mean, none of them were as great as they were without the other three. And so it became like something that was like so much bigger than themselves. So to like say, oh, I love John, of course I do, and you know, and his voice is like one of the greatest sounds in rock and roll. But I just think, you know, part of what made him great was the Beatles, you know.
Yeah.
And so I kind of hesitate a little. I don't want to be like too fanish in that way, because I just look at them as that four-headed monster. They are, to me, one entity.
Mm-hmm.
So, not trying to evade the question. I guess if I had a gun to my head, I'd probably say John Lennon. But, you know, I really do think of them as like one thing.
I just put my gun away.
But, you know, but having said that, I saw Paul McCartney a few weeks ago at Dodger Stadium, and he was unbelievable. So great.
Yeah.
So great. So, you know, I mean, why choose?
Right.
I posted on Facebook like a couple of months ago. I said, can't we love both the Beatles and the Stones and just agree to hate what's his name? Freddie and the Dreamers.
Did you really put that?
Yeah, because he was always, remember, you had to be either a Beatle or Stones first. I said, well, can't we like both the Beatles and the Stones and just hate Freddie and the Dreamers?
Or the Box Tops?
Oh no, they're great.
Oh, if I had when the letter comes on,
baby.
I change channels when the letter comes on.
Oh, really? You don't like Alex Chilton?
I am not a letter fan.
Not of that song.
Yeah,
What about Cry Like a Baby?
Okay, I like that. That I like. That's a different animal.
I liked it. I liked them because they were part of the kind of the Muscle Shoals thing in a way.
Yeah.
You know, they like Dan Penn and Spooner Oldham were involved, and I'm such a huge fan of Southern soul music.
Yeah, that school is just so rich and has such a great influence for years past its inception around 65. I mean, it just spans the end of the 60s and into the 70s. So, yeah, but that one song.
Some of my favorite records. I mean, just even like Dusty in Memphis or Aretha, I Never Loved a Man, just right there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know,
classic.
Forget about it.
Amazing. Well, I had a question, Elliot. It seems that I had read somewhere that, you know, during the height of your career, that somebody had asked John Lennon what current bands he really liked, and
oh yeah,
he said the Cars.
Yeah, I mean, even just when you just said it, I got goose pimples again. It's like, what a blessing and what an amazing thing that, you know, I was like, wow, John Lennon knows we exist. You know, and I really, and you know, we'd only had been making records or had records out for 2 years in '80, and
right.
you know, and he was talking about just like starting over, his first single off his new Double Fantasy record, and he was saying how, you know, he's a kind of a 50s guy, and it was sort of like an Elvis type of song, inspired song, and he said he found that a lot of the new wave bands incorporated a lot of like 50s stuff. Like he said, like, take the Cars, that Touch and Go, and he goes, oh, he goes, that's like one of those Buddy Holly like hiccups, you know?
Yeah, yes.
And you know, and he was talking about like how the B-52s, like some of that, like that Rock Lobster is like very Yoko-ish. The way they sing that stuff, you know, those noises they make, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I guess it's singing. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, he like, you know, knew the song and like referred to it. And he talked about, you know, Springsteen, a couple other things too, but just the fact that he mentioned the Cars, and it was his last interview ever.
Wow.
Was it Andy Peoples? Was that what it was?
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
That's.
But what a blessing, you know, that you know, I was able to make that like real connection.
Right.
Like the guy heard my music and liked it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that meant a whole lot to me.
Something nobody can say. You know.
That's everything.
Yeah, it is everything. It's a once in a lifetime, rare. I mean, that's something to treasure.
That's everything.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's why I did it. That's why I do it for, man.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, a moment like that. I'm gonna stop bawling in a minute.
So, okay. Also, tell us now. It's your turn to call out a current band that you are digging these days. That's a super old term. But what are some of the current groups that you are hearing that you like their sound?
Well, you know, I like the Black Keys a lot. And I don't know, you know, that's not brand new, but and I always am interested in what Jack White does.
Yeah.
I like the Raconteurs, his sort of band after the White Stripes too. And there's this great little band out of England called the Stripes with a Y. Mm-hmm. Have you heard them or seen them?
Yes.
I don't know them. I bet Lanea does, though.
They look like the Yardbirds in '65, and they play like that. You know, they're like teenage kids with like cool suits and playing like, you know, R&B, you know, and that's pretty irresistible to me. I like them. You know, what's the band? What's that? Brandon Flowers, the guy who inducted us in the Hall of Fame. What's that band?
Oh yeah.
I can't remember his band, but that's a good band.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting to that place where like if you put on Saturday Night Live and like they say who's playing, you're like, who's that? Or,
yes.
You know, if you pick up a Rolling Stone and they're writing about like somebody who's selling a gazillion records and you never even heard of them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not. That's not a, you know, bragging about that, but I guess that's just, you know.
Wow.
You know, I kind of love what I always love, and I like things that are kind of influenced by that. I love country music. You know, I love Alison Moore and Shelby Lynne, and Marty Stewart and those guys, like real country music and gosh, Bakersfield, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you have a rich variety.
I just like good stuff, Chicago blues.
Yes, and so additionally, I wanted to mention that you had told us you gave a performance not long ago at the GRAMMY Museum, and you performed the entire Revolver LP.
I did. The entire British version, I might add.
Woo!
Oh, my God. I worked so hard on that thing. I rehearsed it for myself, just doing homework, with the album, for about a month, like going in most every day and playing every song. And some of it was really challenging. I mean, I had to create sitars for Love You Too, had to create tambora drones and backwards tape looping for Tomorrow Never Knows. We had to do the two-guitar harmony thing, and Your Bird Can Sing, because it's a UK version. But the interesting thing, the thing that sticks out in my mind, I mean, well, first of all, I'll only, play a show if I'm going to be good. And in order to do that, it takes so much work to make it, look easy. And you have to get to where you have, the muscle memory, so you're not just always thinking about what the next part is, and you can kind of have fun with it and entertain people and play music. But the most challenging thing of that project was Paul McCartney's solo in Taxman.
Really?
That thing, it was like cracking a code. And I'll tell you why. You see, George plays like a guitarist and plays in the normal sort of little pentatonic boxes and blues shapes that we all rely on at times, But when Paul plays, whether it's the solo in Helter Skelter or the little breaks in Me and My Monkey or
right,
Ticket to Ride, he doesn't play like a guitarist. He just plays genius musical ideas, and so they're not they don't fall under your fingers in the normal guitar player way. And some of the little raga flourishes in the Taxman solo, it's like a combination. I don't want to get too technical, but of hammer-ons and pull-offs, and it's very, very nuanced. And I listen to that damn thing over and over and over, just little 3-second segments. And that's what he's doing. And it took a few days because it was so different. But now I can play the Taxman solo.
Well, you rocked it. I've watched the videos, and I mean, everybody is doing a wonderful job, and the music is excellent. And then there you are, and you are bringing it, as we say in the South. I mean, you are putting on your max showing, not just standing on the stage doing the music. So kudos to you. That was a great performance.
Jude, I can't do it any other way, man. And I'll tell you what, it's the Beatles' Revolver album. I mean, I'm gonna work so hard to be great. I want people to go, holy mackerel, that sounds just like the record. Otherwise, it's not even worth it to me. But
it was
I could have toured that album by the time I was done, and it was all for just one damn show, or two shows, an early and a late. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, I almost felt like I was channeling at some points. I was so into it,
Yeah. You can see that you're into it, and we'll put this show will be posted on Facebook and Twitter and all that. But we will put on our Facebook She Said page several of those videos for people to watch next week because
fun.
It's amazing.
Another great one that I love was the year before we did the White Album 50th anniversary, and we did While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and I had that was another one that I worked real hard to nail.
And is there video of that?
Yeah, there is.
Because we'll put that up too.
As a matter of fact, I'm up there with Lawrence Juber, who's in the last incarnation.
Oh yeah.
And John Jorgensen, who you might know, right? From Desert Rose Band and Sessions and the Helicasters and just studio work and stuff. But,
wow.
Yeah, but I told them, and I said, I own this solo, and they were like, okay. And then I just I knew I had it. I just owned that thing, and I worked on it, and if you hear it, you'll say, hopefully you'll like it. But
well, listeners will.
I don't roll any other way. It's got to be like, holy crap.
That's terrific. We wouldn't expect any less out of you.
Well, you got to take pride in your work, and
right. If you're going to do it, do it. Go.
Yeah, if you're going to sign off on something, you don't want to be thinking about it later that I should have or could have done a little bit more work and I would have been better or this or that. That's harder to live with than the work.
Right.
That's the work ethic that goes into being a famous rock and roll band, isn't it? I mean,
it's just
that
like
work
I said,
ethic was behind the Beatles as well.
Right, and it's that same thing of how hard they worked to make it look easy.
Yeah.
Jude, you were talking about like listening how great, like on say the anthology discs, how you hear the early versions of records, and then you could hear just like how hard they worked from getting it to that point to where it was finally. The record. It's like unbelievable how hard they work.
That's right.
Take after take, just trying stuff.
Man, we could talk about this forever. We could do hours of, it's just
we would talk about like songs versus records, and like I always kind of think like in rock and roll, pop, like the song ain't done being written until the record's finished.
Oh, I like that.
You know what I mean? Because if somebody comes up with an idea or a hook or a musical line that just makes the song, whether it's, Carol Kay's bass line and the beat goes on or something like that, or just any kind of part that just people go, whoa,
Yeah. Yep.
To me, that's a compositional contribution as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? It's like,
yep, I think that's a great quote. I may have to borrow that from you and footnote it.
But it's true, I mean, until that thing's mixed, anything can go on there.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Someone has an idea and all of a sudden it takes a left turn.
Yeah, really. I love it. That is so true.
It is.
Well, Elliot, we sadly have come to the end of our time, but we want to make sure that our listeners know where to find you on social media so they can watch for the Valentine's Day release of The Empty Hearts. I can't think of a more perfect way to spend Valentine's Day than with The Empty Hearts.
Yeah, those little pink boxes that you used to take when you were in elementary school with the little candy hearts that say, I love you or please be mine. Yeah. I was thinking maybe we should make those boxes for The Empty Hearts and have nothing inside.
Yeah.
So like, the empty heart.
I love it.
Or you could just have the heart candy with nothing on it.
Yeah, just nothing on it, empty.
Yeah, I love that.
That's good.
That would be priceless. Absolutely.
Well, it's been always, again, a blast talking to you ladies. It's always fun, and it's always fun to talk with people who really love the Beatles and are so knowledgeable, and it's great.
We greatly appreciate and respect your influence and all of the experiences that you have been through, and we love hearing it, and we love that you offer that up so we can have our listeners enjoy and hear what you have to say as well. We have had so many people comment about your other show, and so I'm sure this one will be just as enjoyable. And I did have someone write on Facebook, and they suggested that next time you play She Said, She Said.
Oh, well, you can also, there's a video of us doing it at the GRAMMY Museum.
Oh. Yeah. And we're going to use that as our play out today. So that will be
much. It's so much fun doing it. And if people want to find out a little bit more about The Empty Hearts, we have a Facebook page called The Empty Hearts and a website, theemptyhearts.com. And you can go on either of those, and there's links to videos and songs and stuff and photos, and you can check the band out and stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll see you in February to release that new Empty Heart CD. We can't wait.
I love it. You got it.
Thank you so much.
So much.
Okay.
And thank you to all of our listeners here on She Said, as well. We appreciate your being a part of all we do, and we hope that you're enjoying the ride as we begin our 3rd year of this program together. I can't even believe it. And to celebrate anniversary number 3, we have some fantastic guests coming up for you in the weeks ahead. First, we have Jim Birkenstadt, the rock and roll detective, who will be here to talk about his bestseller, The Beatle Who Vanished, which is the life of drummer Jimmy Nicol. Jimmy, as you might know, filled in for Ringo for 13 days on the 1964 North American tour. And Jim will give us the scoop on those exciting days. And when he appears in person as the featured author for the Beatles at the Ridge on September 20th and 21st in Walnut Ridge, Arkansas, Jim was the Harrison family's historian during the making of Martin Scorsese's film George Harrison Living in the Material World, one of my top 5 ever films. And Jim will be the MC for the viewing of this wonderful, wonderful documentary, and it is going to be at Beatles at the Ridge on Saturday, September 21st. So, to make the viewing experience really unique, he's going to take the Ridge guests through that film with him and bring it to life as only Jim Birkenstadt can. He'll give She Said, an insider's look at the film as well when he guests on our program next week. I think it'll be out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll get it out soon. And Lena and I sincerely want to invite all of you to come out and meet Jim in person, as well as Bruce Spicer, who will be releasing his brand new book, The Beatles Get Back to Abbey Road. We have the official book launch party for Bruce that weekend, and we have Ken Orth's Meet the Lookalikes as well, all September 20th and 21st. It's a free 2-day Beatles Festival and Symposium, and our cast of stars, I mean, they are absolutely remarkable.
Absolutely. You are not lying. We also have a fabulous MC, Susan Ryan, and she's going to be on the show next week with Jim Birkenstadt as well. So don't miss the book launch party that we're hosting for Bruce Spicer's brand new book, The Beatles Get Back to Abbey Road. And the party is going to be on Friday night, September 20th. These are all of these presentations take place in the studio in Walnut Ridge on Main Street, Walnut Ridge, Arkansas. And on Saturday, Beatles at the Ridge attendees will get to explore the unique, fun stories behind American Beatles memorabilia and American Beatles fan clubs. So we have authors Terry Crane, Sarah Schmidt, and Patty Gallo-Stinman on hand to talk about all of these fantastic topics. In addition, on both days, we'll also have music from the majorly talented artist and musician Rand Kessler, who is also our Jeff Emmerich and does a fantastic job on our shows. And we also have teen sensation Cameron Hicks. You're going to see door prizes, refreshments, and a really special tour of the unmatched collection and Beatles exhibit, which is entitled Meet the Lookalikes, and it is being exhibited by curator and collector Ken Orth. All of this is free, absolutely free. Go to the website, BeatlesAtTheRidge.com, and make all of your plans, see the schedule, see what's going on. You better get a hotel reservation quite quickly. And we look forward to seeing you there. You're going to have the time of your life. And until then, here's to food for thought, food for the soul, and food for the love of rock and roll.
And as we play out with Elliot Easton shining on the GRAMMY Museum version of She Said, I'll leave you with these words. Ta-ra and shine on.